Morning, everyone. I am Bill Rawlings, Chair of the California Workforce Pathways Joint Advisory Committee for 2023. I want to thank you for joining us today. It's been a little while. Today's meeting is being conducted virtually, and so I ask for everyone's patience as we navigate through today's meeting. Today's meeting is being broadcast through a live webcast. Interested parties can view the broadcast by visiting the California Workforce Pathways webpage and clicking on the live webcast link located under the 2023 Public Meeting Notices, Agendas, and Minutes. A recording of the webcast will be archived at the California Workforce Pathways webpage in about a week. I have the following announcements to ensure a smooth meeting. First, keep all microphones on mute. All attendance and motions will be taken by roll call. Committee members will use the raise hand feature in the live webcast to be recognized for providing comments or questions. And I will ask for public comment for each agenda item and again at the end of the meeting. Public comments can be made via live webcast, email, or by phone. All options are explained on the posted agenda. And today we have a couple of items to cover, probably a pretty quick meeting, I think. First, we're going to have an update on the California State Plan for Career Technical Education, which will include an overview of the activities being completed during the implementation planning phase. And then we'll conclude today's meeting with an update on the CTE incentive grant data metrics. And as a note for the staff and those reporting out on these items, one of the things I'd ask Pete prior to the meeting is where we have insight into how the governor's executive order may impact, may influence, color, enhance, elevate this work that we're doing. Please feel free to share your insights on those as well. And then before we get started, I want to introduce a new member to the community college side of the team. I'd like to welcome Lucia Robles, who is the Dean of the K-12 Strong Workforce Program in the Workforce and Economic Development Division. Lucia, please introduce yourself to the committee.
Morning, everyone. I am Dr. Lucia Robles, and back at the State Chancellor's Office. I was at the State Chancellor's Office back in 2001, and I was there approximately almost 10 years, and then went out in the field, have served as a CTE Dean at San Jose City College, Solano Community College, Los Angeles Community College District. I was a district-wide dean for CTE and workforce development. Most recently, I was serving as the vice president of equity and institutional effectiveness at Madera Community College. However, I am from Sacramento, so this opportunity to come back at the State Chancellor's Office and really do some of the work right now as we are trying to align a lot of the initiatives and do just very exciting work in CTE. It was an excellent opportunity for me to come back, and so I'm excited to be back and be able to contribute. It's nice to meet all of you.
Thank you for that, and welcome back where you belong, back home in Sacramento.
That's right. Born and raised, I need to be back. I've been gone for more than 14 years, so it is time to be back. Thank you.
Wow, it's wonderful. I look forward to the work with us.
Likewise.
Yeah. So we must have a quorum to continue, and since it's a virtual meeting, staff will take attendance by roll call. Rachel, will you please call the roll?
Good morning, everyone. Chair Rawlings.
Present.
Member Escobedo.
Present.
Member Grande.
Here.
Member McQuillan.
Here.
Member Rodriguez.
Present.
And Member Williams. And ex officio Member McGuire.
All right. We're missing a couple folks, but it does look like we have a quorum in attendance. So it is now 9:15 according to my clock, and I will call the meeting to order. Before moving to the first agenda item, I will ask Rachel to announce the staff members who are supporting our meeting remotely.
Good morning again. On site, we have myself, Rachel Moran, Staff Services Manager 1 in the Career and College Transition Division. We have Pete Callis, the Division Director of the Career and College Transition Division. And we have Michaela Bertacchini, Analyst in the Career and College Transition Division. Virtually, we have quite a few folks. We have Colby Franklin within CCTV and he is in the Career Technical Education Leadership Office. He's the administrator. We have Thomas Bjorkman, Jonathan Eisler, and Thomas Coe, all from our AMARD, who will be helping us present the data today. From the Chancellor's Office, we have LaCandace Ochoa, Dean, Lucia Robles, Dean, Gary Adams, Dean, and Eric Cooper, Assistant Vice Chancellor. From the State Board of Education, we have Laura Rodriguez.
All right, thank you, Rachel. So that gets us to item number 1. And so I would like to seek approval of the preliminary report of action and draft minutes for our May 26, 2023 meeting. Is there a motion?
I'll move that we accept the initial report of action from our May 2023 meeting.
All right. Thank you, Jolena. Is there a second?
Member Rodriguez, I second.
All right. Thank you, Member Rodriguez. And so with that, I don't know, it says that, are there any other comments from the public on this item?
There are no public
I don't see any.
on this item.
All right. I see no hands virtually. So with that, would you please call the roll?
Chair Rawlings.
Yes.
Member Escobedo.
Yes.
Member Grande.
Yes.
Member McQuillan.
Yes.
Member Rodriguez.
Yes.
Member Williams.
All right, that motion passes. The approved report of action and minutes for the May 26, 2023 meeting and the recording of today's broadcast will be available on the California Workforce Pathways webpage, again, usually in about a week. And that gets us to item number 2, which is the update on the California State Plan for Career Technical Education. So for that, I'd like to welcome Pete Callis, Director of the Career and College Transition Division, and Tony Landis, Director from Jobs for the Future, to guide the committee through the update on the California State Plan for CTE.
Thank you, Chair Rawlings. So our latest update on the California State Plan for CTE was that we brought it to you for adoption in March of 2023. And in May of 2023, we outlined a plan for conducting some convenings across the state. We held 10 regional convenings across the state. The convenings were to introduce the CTE plan along with bringing regional pathway partners together. And we had a number of people participating in the process. We have some statistics on that. I felt that the convenings went really well. Overall, there's some really strong participation. There's a real gain of knowledge on why we did the plan, and we really pushed the factor that we were looking to assist with regional pathway development along with statewide support. And so there were some really good conversations we had at the regional convenings. It felt like we were on a concert tour across the state of California. And I'll show you a graphic later, but I made some t-shirts for the participants that did the convenings, and with all the cities that we stopped in across the state and the date. So it looks like a concert t-shirt on the back. And we had a good time, and we were able to learn some things about ourselves. It was Tony Landis, Shannon Shiho from Jobs from the Future. Charlotte Cahill joined us for a few of them. We had a number of folks from the Chancellor's office participating in the convenings. What we did find out was Shannon was actually one of my students when I was a principal. I was her high school principal years ago. So interesting conversations. So moving on. We invited secondary and post-secondary regional pathway partners to apply for hosting a site. We actually had 27 partners apply to host the 10 regions that we had selected. And we basically divided up the hosting between K-12 and the community colleges. So 5 through K-12 partners, 5 through community college partners. Those that were not selected were invited to attend and participate in one of the convenings. Some of the convenings were limited space-wise based on facilities, but we averaged between 30 at the lower end of the convenings all the way up to 200 at one of the other convenings. So it was quite 3.5 weeks of driving around the state and meeting with people, and but it was good overall. So this is the back of our T-shirt right here, but this is all the cities that we visited, right, with the dates. And we started out in the Central Valley with Tulare, moved up to Eureka, and then kind of worked our way down the state all the way through, and then finished up in Sacramento on October 16th. Tony, anything you want to add at this point?
Yeah, I mean, it was, as Pete already mentioned, it was a great time. There was a lot of high energy in every convening. So folks came prepared. They were ready to interact. Many folks hadn't been together or seen each other really since COVID. And so they were happy to be in the room and are really energized to get some of this work done. And as Pete said, yeah, we were at all 10 of these all across the state, kind of skipping, hopping here and there to get to the convenings. And, you know, I'm glad that we were able to do it in the way that we did it within this short time frame, because I think that has continued to help with the momentum and the conversations that are still happening about the meeting, preparing us for the next phase of the work that Peter mentioned a little bit later. So.
Great. Thanks, Tony. So we sent out invitations based on a couple of our listservs between us and the Chancellor's office, and it allowed us to identify the regions where we were looking. We had almost just over 1,000 registrants across the state, attendees. We had 857 attendees, a number of on-site registrants, which were showing up at the door. We accepted everybody that came to the convening. So overall, we had an 86% show rate, which was pretty good for something like this, planning it out for May and having folks register and actually get to these convenings. Some folks, especially up north, the one that we had in Eureka, some of them had to drive and actually stay overnight for the convening because they were so far away from the Eureka area. But they were there, they were dedicated, and the great thing about like the county office there that hosted was they scheduled another meeting after the convening. So they actually had set up some work. So since they were all there together, they took advantage of that entire day, which worked out really well for them. So our convening agenda looked like this. We had registration, networking, welcome remarks. We did an overview of the state plan. We did an overview of the strategies for regional pathway implementation. We gave them a good deal of team time for reflecting and planning, and then we talked about next steps. And I think the overview and the regional planning implementation went really well. Our partners at JFF developed a tool for them to work from, and we actually followed up and emailed the tool to all of the registrants after the convening. So they had it in hard copy at the meeting, and then they had a soft copy version of it in their email. So they could use it going forward as they did the work. So this wasn't a full-blown planning session where they came out with a regional plan, but it got them started on the conversations. Like I said, we had a lot of positive feedback just about partnering from both ends, from the community college folks and the K-12 folks. So I think bringing them together made a big difference, and having us there at the convenings made a big difference for them. So moving forward, we want to continue with this type of model. I don't think we can bear 10 convenings in 3 weeks again, but we can probably spread them out over the year and really work with the regions in that manner, and actually bring more staff from both the Chancellor's Office and from CDE to help out with the planning and just working with them on their regional plans. We also did a post-convening survey, and these were the main results from the survey. We're still receiving some of the surveys back, but really there are 4 main areas that they really want us to focus on going forward. Boost data-informed decision-making for equity and impact. They want us to expand on work-based learning in all regions with a focus on equity. They want us to grow dual enrollment in all regions with a focus on equity, and then understand and plan to address CTE and faculty shortages. So they're very aware of the issues across the state, and they're very consistent on what they want to see happen with this regional planning piece. Tony, you want to expand on this?
Yeah, absolutely. So as Pete was mentioning about these critical areas that folks really looked into, and of course, if you see these are the 4 goals that are in the plan. And based on the feedback that we've received, it's going to really help us as we move forward to building the tools and the resources that are going to be needed in order to continue to push this needle forward based on the work that folks are doing. And that one there with the CTE teacher and faculty shortages, that was one of the hottest topics, of course, of the day, because it's a struggle to try to convince folks who are working in jobs where they may be making 6-figure salaries to get them to come and be a CTE teacher in some of these critical fields that we know that we need those teachers in. So there were a lot of great ideas, various solutions that folks were really trying to work towards in the conversations that we were having during the convening, which I think could show some definite promise moving forward. Thanks, Pete.
Great. Thank you, Tony. Next was the post-convening survey question 9, which was, with which of the 4 goals in the state plan would you or your region partnership benefit from additional assistance, such as tools and guidance to support implementation? And as you can see, it's fairly balanced. The highest was understand and plan to address the teacher shortages piece. Also expanding work-based learning was huge on this. So we didn't have a lot of respondents on this one, but it's fairly consistent with the conversations that we were having in the room with them. Tony, anything else on this one?
No, I think you hit it on all points there. Again, seeing that the last one, understand and plan to address the CTE shortage, it makes sense that most folks were really focused on that. With dual enrollment, of course, that's still a huge factor and focus on folks' work that they want to do and trying to move that needle. And so, we know that there's still a lot of work to be done in those areas. But again, I think as we continue to move forward with some of the tools that and resources that we'll be developing will assist pathway partners in this work.
Right. And on the dual enrollment front, CDE received $200 million in last year's budget to expand and improve dual enrollment across the state. Prior to receiving this funding, we had 53 of the community colleges that had partnered with their K-12 districts to provide dual enrollment programs, which meant that there's a number, just over half had not done that yet. We actually gave out just over 500 grants at $100,000 apiece to expand dual enrollment across the state, along with early and middle college high school programs. So we have about $120 million left for round 2 this year to offer more support for and resources for dual enrollment programs. So we're hoping that the K-12 and their community college partners take advantage of this funding to expand to all community colleges if we can. So, which is the goal. And I know the new chancellor, Sonia Christian, one of her big goals is expanding dual enrollment. So we want to really partner with her on this moving forward. Member Williams, question.
Yeah, thank you for the information. It's great to see you all. Sorry for being late. Do you have any data yet on which pathways are taking advantage of dual enrollment? Which ones actually are helping students earn college credit? Or can you access that information in the future?
I can see if I can bring it to the committee at the January meeting. Thank you for asking that question, though.
Yeah, and I'm just thinking high level, like which pathways, and to help identify which ones are like excelling at it. If there are any best practices that can be shared with districts.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll have that for you at the January meeting. Thank you. All right, next steps. Tony, you want to help me out with this one?
Yeah, absolutely. Again, as we mentioned, based off of the feedback we were able to receive from the convenings, and that post-convening survey has really helped us, see and understand some of those areas that we'll have to try to create some resources and tools for to assist these institutions. These pathway partners as they continue to do this work. So right now, we're in the process of looking at some of those resources. There's some resources that JFF already has in place around dual enrollment, as well as work-based learning that we're going to lean into to try to use those and develop something that is very California specific to the work that is happening here within the state, and also looking at developing and creating some new tools, especially around the CTE teacher shortage piece, as well as the boost data informed decision making. And so we're in the process, as I mentioned, that we're doing that right now. We're also looking at the remaining parts of this work as we kind of move out of this phase into the next phase of really implementing what this looks like at a regional level. Another thing that we've talked about is having a virtual convening. So as Pete mentioned, we're not going to do 10 in 5 weeks like we did this time. We're just going to do one virtual convening that gives everyone across the state an opportunity, because we know that the buzz is out there now. Folks that didn't get a chance to attend were a little upset about it and was like, we wish we could participate and been a part of these discussions. But, one of the things that we emphasized was that as folks who were at the meetings, to make sure that they took this information back to their teams and their members. So this conversation could continue. And the hope is with that virtual convening, we haven't set a date for it yet, but we're working with Pete and LaCandice and others on their teams to ensure that we can find the best date to do this virtual convening, which would be open to everyone across the state that is doing this important work. And again, hopefully by that time, they'll already be engaged with the resources and the tools in this toolkit that we've developed to help them along this path, so we can continue to have these robust conversations about how do we solve some of the issues that are in front of us, and how can we create and make better pathways for our students. So that's pretty much it with the next steps.
Okay. Yeah, some of the other comments that I received even after the convenings, and I was just at a CTE conference this past week, and they were asking, how did you decide on the regions? And so some of them have regional groups within their regions that we had. And they asked, would it be okay if we worked with smaller groups to start? And, if they're willing to meet and get this work done, we're willing to support it whichever way they want to get it done. So I said, absolutely, whatever you need from us for support on that, just let us know. But if they're wanting to get this put together, we agreed that any way they can get it done is good with us. We just figured we would kickstart it with them. We didn't want it to be a one and done. So after the webinar, we can follow up with a team of folks from us in the Chancellor's office whenever we're all available, and go out and meet with them also. So I think the face-to-face makes a big difference with people in the field. Okay, that's our end of our presentation for the state plan.
All right, thank you, Pete. And so, I think, Pete, you probably addressed the one comment I had for it, which was, and Tony as well, is, as far as moving forward, doing the virtual convening, getting everyone pretty much on the same page with what the resources are and how the process works, and then getting back out to the field and doing more direct supports as they're doing the regional plans, I think is a good model to follow. Other members of the committee, any other comments or questions? I do not see any hands. And so if there are no other comments or questions from members of the committee, I will open it for public comments. And I do see one virtually with Lance Gunnarsson.
Yes, Lance Gunnarsson, you will be unmuted, and please say the entity that you are with and the agenda item you are referencing.
Well, hello. My name's Lance Gunnarsson. I'm with the California Teachers Association. It's good to be back. I actually was trying to figure out just now how to reach out to the group through email or through phone access. So I'm glad to know that I can join this way. That'll be very helpful. And the only comment I had is, and it did come up in this recent conversation, was that it would be nice to meet in person because I'm just a voice, and it would be nice to see your smiley faces. And I hope that is on the agenda. In fact, I'm curious to know if we're actually meeting the Brown Act standards at this point, because I think the pandemic's over. So I would encourage you to find out about that. But hopefully the next meeting or so will be in person, and I would enjoy that very much.
Thank you, Lance. Is there any other public comment?
No.
All right, then that concludes the public comment for item 2, and that gets us to item number 3, which is an update on the Career Technical Education Incentive Grant, CTEG data metrics. And so for that, I'd like to welcome back Pete Callis, Director of the Career and College Transition Division, and Thomas Bjorkman, consultant from the Analysis, Measurement, Accountability, Reporting Division, AMARD, to update us on the CTIG data metrics. And I think you both know that this is one of my favorite agenda items, so take it away.
And it's ours also. So yeah, we were able to actually fulfill more of the data that we are required to have based on our metrics for the CTIG program. Of course, in the past, we've been able to do metric 1, 1A, 1B, 1C. 1C, 1D, we actually have data for this year. 1A is the number of pupils completing one CTE course. Indicator 1B is the number of pupils who complete at least 300 hours of course sequence in an industry pathway. The sequence includes the capstone course, and the CTE students receives a grade C- or better in the capstone course, which makes them a pathway completer. Then we have indicator 1C, the number of pupils completing 2 CTE courses. They don't have to be in the same industry sector. And then indicator 1D, the number of students completing more than 2 CTE courses, but does not reach CTE completer status as defined above for the 4-year cohort. So as you can see here is 1A, and we had the number of CTIG students here on the left and the number of just all students in the cohort on the right. So as you can see, CTE participants, which is 1A, one course, one CTE course, we had in this cohort, we had 310,000, just over 310,000 students that were part of CTIG, and then all CTE, all students, we had 341,000 students take at least one course. There were a total of just under 498,000 students in this cohort. So fairly consistent with the size of the cohort that we've had in the past. And so we move on to indicator 1A, a number of students who completed a pathway. And our CTIG students, we had 83, just under 84,000 complete a pathway of the 429,000 in that group. And then overall CTE completers, we had 87,881 students complete a pathway out of the 497,000. And then indicator 1C, number of pupils completing 2 CTE courses without completing a pathway. We had 65,702 of the CTIG students, and overall 73,000 students completing 2 courses, but they're not completers. Indicator 1D, number of pupils completing more than 2 CTE courses, but did not reach CTE completer status. Greater than 2 courses, and were part of a CTIG program. We had 64,644 students, and overall we had 70,868 students complete more than 2 CTE courses, but did not reach completer status. Thomas, any follow-up on this one from Amar?
Nope. No, nothing. Nothing here.
Pretty consistent with previous years, right?
Yeah, you're in there's a slow increase too if you compare this to the previous cohort we presented in the similar format.
That was the 1920 cohort, correct?
Correct.
Yeah. Okay. Moving on to metric 2, high school graduation rate. Indicator 2A, unduplicated aggregate count of pupils in the adjusted cohort for the graduating class that were in an LEA identified the pupils having completed 1 course. So students that graduated and completed 1 course is 2A. 2B, student unduplicated aggregate count of students in the adjusted cohort for the graduating class identified as having completed at least 1 CTE pathway within the last 4 years. Indicator 2C, unduplicated aggregate count of pupils in the adjusted cohort for the graduating class. Pupil as having completed 2 CT courses but not completing a pathway. And then indicator 2D is where unduplicated aggregate count of students in the adjusted cohort of the graduating class identified as having completed more than 2 CTE courses. So this is the same as similar to metric 1, but this deals with the graduation rate for each of the indicators. So for indicator 2A, all students in the cohort that graduated, 87% of the students graduated. CTE participants taking at least one course was 92.7%. Students that were not part of CTIG, their graduation rate was 72.6%. Non-CTIG CTE participants were 80.2%. All CTIG students, 89.3%. And then all CTE participants that graduated were 93.9%. So you can see all students in the cohort graduation rate was 87. If they were in a CTIG CTE participant program and took at least one course, their graduation rate was about 6%, almost 7% higher than the entire cohort. Moving to 2B, having completed one pathway, you can see, we're looking at the same indicators here in the same groups. So all students in the cohort, again, 87% graduated. If you go down to the bottom and they completed a pathway, CTIG CTE completers were at 98.8%. So about almost 12% higher than the overall cohort for graduation. And then moving on to students that completed at least 2 courses in their 4-year cohort, 87% again for the overall. If they took 2 CT courses and did not complete, they were at 91.9%, so almost 5% higher than the overall cohort. All CTIG students were 89.3%, and then CTIG 2 CT course non-completers were 93%, so about 6% higher if they're in the CTIG program and compared to the overall 87%. And then finally, indicator 2D. Again, all students, 87%, took 2 or more CTE courses but did not complete, were about 95%. And then CTIG students, it was very similar. It was just 0.6% higher than the overall non-completers. Still completing about 8% higher at graduation rate. Metric 3, number of pupils meeting academic and career readiness standards as defined in the CCI associated with the California School Dashboard. Indicator 3A, the number of students meeting a score of level 2 standard nearly met or above on the Smarter Balanced Grade 11 English Language Arts Assessment. Indicator 3B, the number of pupils meeting a score of level 2 standard nearly met or above on the Smarter Balanced 11th Grade Mathematics Assessment. Indicator 3C, the number of CTE completers as defined in the CCI associated with the California School Dashboard, not available in 21-22 cohort due to COVID. And then indicator 3D, the number of students completing college coursework as defined in the CCI associated with California School Dashboard. So indicator 3A, the number of students meeting a score of level 2 or higher, or standard nearly met or above on the Smarter Balanced Language Arts exam. Thomas, you want to walk through this one?
Yeah, sure. So similar to the previous kind of metrics, you know, the entire cohort, 80%, 80.7%, so almost 81% of the students were 2 or higher. And I believe this is for ELA. And then all the non-CTE is 81.3%, 18.7%. And then you can see with the CTE completion status, there's a slight bump in being in the blue, which is where you kind of want to be. Those are the higher scores. You know, that trend can be seen going down through each one of the metrics.
Okay.
I see Dr. Escobedo has a question.
Yeah.
Yes, I just wondered why the blue is not 3 and 4, because really want to see those students that met or are above standards.
It's a great question. So we're currently operating off of the CTIG plan that was created, I don't know, a while ago. And so originally it was actually 2 or better. I mean, in it's funny that you mentioned that, because I think Pete has been talking about this for a while now. It's something to revisit, and in the current plan for the CTIG plan is 2 or better. And Pete, correct me if I'm wrong. If it's
you're correct.
Plan,
and
the Perkins plan, but that's something that can be revisited.
In this coming spring, Dr. Escobedo, we will bring this to the CWPJAC for consideration. As an ex-principal, I would like to see 3 or better.
Thank you, Pete. Appreciate it.
And also to the question, you know, if we're looking to apples, we'd probably want to keep tracking at some level the 2 or better, but we can add on the 3 or better as we do our reports for this, even if it's not a dedicated indicator. As we get updates on CTIG, we can include that as an extra slide here, hopefully.
Correct.
We're actually one step ahead of you. We've got a slide. We've run those numbers too on our end, just so you know, it won't be hard to incorporate in future stuff. That's been our plan as well.
Great, thank you, Tom.
And I know we've probably mentioned this in the past. We meet with the AMARD group once a week, and this is our data nerd geek group that meets once a week, and we talk about these things and really ponder how we can make improvements to this and look at things in a different way. Just like, you know, we'll have the attendance data in here again, even though it's not part of the plan, but really looking at different ways to do this. And then with this Golden State Pathways program that we're rolling out this year, we're hoping that helps out even further with expanding and improving our test scores, because with the Golden State Pathways, we're including core curricular courses to be linked to their CTE courses. So that's the goal. And we've seen that improvement with our California Partnership Academy programs, where our A through G completion rate is in the mid 60% level compared to the overall state level that's in the 40s.
Very exciting.
And just to piggyback on that, I'm already whiteboarding some slides to present at hopefully a future CWPJAC meeting that hits upon that inquiry earlier in the meeting about the dual credit stuff in the context of the pathways. And so that's kind of fun stuff for us, and kind of working on a real-time solution to present to Pete and company, and hopefully we'll have something for you in the near future.
All right, moving on to 3B. Very similar. Math, not similar actually, a bit different in scoring. The overall cohort was at 59.2% with a level 2 or higher, whereas the CTIG non-completers were at 57.4%, and the CTIG completers were above the 59.2%. So a little bit higher overall with our CTIG students. And then 3D, because remember we said 3C we couldn't get from this cohort, but 3D, the number of students completing college coursework as defined in the CCI associated with the California School Dashboard. Overall, we had 15.8% of the students completing a college coursework during their 4-year cohort, whereas our CTA completers were about 11% higher at completing college courses. And then all CTA were about the same. Go ahead, John. Thomas.
And the question from earlier about the dual enrollment is part of this, but there are other, you can get college course credit only. There's certain college courses. So this isn't, the inquiry from earlier would be a subset of this.
Okay. Great.
I see Member Williams with the question.
I'm just trying to make sure I understand this. Is this a percentage of the students who had the opportunity to do dual enrollment, or are you just saying these are students who were in dual enrollment?
Who completed courses through dual enrollment? Because
not all CTE programs offer it, right? So does that skew you get what I mean? Because everybody might not have the opportunity.
And not all colleges offer it either, right? So there's that limitation that we've had in the past that we're hoping to get through that with this additional funding that we're providing for dual enrollment programs. But you're right, these are the students that actually completed college courses while they were in high school. And with CTE, they had completed them at a higher rate. They could have been a CTE course and they could not have been a CTE course. But more than likely, they were probably linked to their high school CTE program.
Yeah, maybe a footnote or something, because your numbers might be better than, what they had. So imagine if every CTE program had a dual enrollment opportunity.
Right.
I think this also would go back to maybe revisiting like the definition, because it's defined in the CCI. So the CCI for college, coursework is actually not centered around CTE. So it could be that what we're looking for here is something more, surgical, so to speak, I guess, and more targeted on the CTE space.
That would be another great breakout of data, yeah.
Yep. We'll see if we can break it down into that for you and see where we're at. All right. Moving on to metric 4.
Pete, I see Member Escobedo.
Sorry. Yeah. Oh, you're on mute.
You're on mute.
Sorry. I'm just curious, what is the percentage of students that do have the opportunity to access college courses?
So that's a challenging question to answer, because we don't collect data about opportunity. We collect, this is end of course data. So if, high schools and middle schools submit the students that completed it, we don't know if they offered it. I think the only way we can actually confirm that they offered it is that there is, a course completion record in CT in a particular pathway. That's not data we collect in CalPads. We don't do a survey and say, hey, do you offer this? But then nobody took it. We just have the course data.
We would have to determine which community colleges or even universities offer dual enrollment first, and then we would have to look at their regional K-12s where the opportunity would be or would not be, right? It'd be easy if all the community colleges offered it, and then we could really, figure it out. I know that's the goal at one point, but we're not there yet. So that might be a tough equation to put together. All right, metric 4. A number of pupils obtaining industry-recognized credential, certificate, license, or other measure of technical skill attainment. 4A is the number of CTE pathway completers obtaining industry-recognized certification. 4B, the number of CTE pathway completers completing work-based learning experience. So number of CTE pathway completers obtaining industry recognized certifications. So the 87,000 completers, we had 365 of those students receive an industry recognized certification. CTIG completers, we had about 20,000 less students in that group, but we had 345 that received a industry recognized certificate. And then the non-CTIG completers, we had 20 students receive a certificate. And then 4B, number of CTE pathway completers completing work-based learning experience. Of the overall cohort of 497,000 students, we had 27,000, just over 27,000 students complete a work-based learning experience. And that, I assume, could be anywhere on the continuum of work-based learning based on how it was reported. All non-CTE students, about 2,100. And then all of the CTIG students, 342,000. Almost 26,000 students in that group completed a work-based learning experience. And I'm sure at some point we could probably break it down by parts of the continuum on what type of experience that was. I'm not sure we have that data at this point, but it would be interesting to see if they completed or they worked on a youth apprenticeship program, an internship program, or any type of work experience program that was out there for them.
Yeah, so the work-based learning experience is a relatively new collection in CalPads, and it's going to be interesting to see just over the next few years how the data changes, but we do have that data.
Yeah.
And I would note also here, taking a look at the percentages, I see the CTIC completers, that universe is around, it looks like 57,000 or so, and 12,440 participated. So that's really almost like a 20% participation rate in work-based learning. And I would assume that that is work-based learning around their pathway that they were on. So it's really interesting taking a look at some of this and then taking a look at the outcomes from it.
Right, and looking at which pathways they were a part of, and if, actually, and then looking at the regional piece and seeing how those pathways fit into their region or if they don't.
And it would be an indicator of what's available in their region and what hasn't been. And maybe there's areas of work we have to do to open up work-based learning opportunities for other pathways.
Correct. Okay. Indicator 5, the number of former pupils employed and the types of businesses in which they are employed. Again, this is based on survey data.
Yeah, I believe there's some pieces of metric 4 and metric 5. Thomas Coe, is that correct? Yeah, he's on this call too. He worked on this, that are part of the survey data that is submitted to CTE completers the year after they leave the K-12 space. And, the caveat being that survey data is not as going to be as reliable and as complete as some of the other data we're looking at today.
Yeah, if we get through and they fully develop cradle to career, we'll probably have better data on pieces like this. So
otherwise, we need a data sharing agreement with like EDD and all of that as well, right? Or Department of Labor.
Yeah. Yeah, it was interesting. One of the community college, or a number of them, brought up data sharing.
Yeah, because this survey also talks about post-secondary stuff as well. And so, we part of the cradle to career, I know, the community colleges and the UCs and the CSUs are involved in that, but getting, more complete set of that data in the post-secondary space, as well as then in, the employment sectors as well. That'd be great.
It's just a matter of getting to that point where we have an identifier for all of our students that runs consistently through all the systems. All right. And then again, here's a breakdown by industry sector. And of course, the highest was hospitality, tourism and recreation, followed by other, and then marketing, sales, and service, and so on. So, agriculture was right there in the middle. Education was one of the higher ones in the middle. Health, science, and medical technology, huge growth areas there. And then arts, media, and entertainment being the lower end of the middle group, which is surprising with California being the capital of all of that. And then building and construction trades, which is just a hugely growing industry across the state and across the nation. So probably need to look at that more with our pathway development for our K-12 students.
And I see a note that Eric from the Chancellor's Office, you had a question or comment?
Comment on a couple of the areas for data, at least for the dual enrollment students, where they are in a CTE pathway. We do have the data sharing agreements with EDD, and that may be something that we can contribute in terms of the workforce outcomes, both there and then also in some of the dashboards that we've been publishing as it relates to college and college pipeline data. So just want to say that I think there's an opportunity for some collaboration there if we can sort of refine what the ask is.
Okay.
And I think I see Dr. Escobedo.
I'm curious about when you look at your CT courses, do they lean more into hospitality, or are these indicators on the number of courses that we offer more than others? I'm just really curious, or is it just the employment, openings that generate these numbers?
I think that's another good question we probably need to look into is course offerings, pathways. We're trying to do a map of the state to see what pathways are offered in regions and do an overlay with where the schools are, what they're offering, and what the local labor market looks like also. Right? And then that would give us a good idea. And again, this is survey data. This is responses from some of the students. Like we have with hospitality, tourism, and recreation, we have a number of our California Partnership Academies down in the Coachella Valley that offer students their paid internships. And the resorts there, we have 5 resorts there right now that offer the paid internships. They are offering to support them going to college and building out their education that way. And then when they come back or when they do go away to college, they offer them positions in resorts wherever they are in college if they're available. And I was down visiting in February some of the resorts and then our academies that we have at Coachella Valley High School. And one of the previous students, a graduate of Coachella Valley High School, she had just come back, finished college, just interviewed that week for a position with one of the resorts and was offered a job. So it's that whole full circle piece of, keeping them local. And even with the education side, a number of their teachers were graduates of the high school that went away to school, got their teaching credentials, came back, and are now part of these academies that they're building out for these students for career-based education. All right, and then we're at our last metric. Number of former pupils enrolled in each of a post-secondary education institution, state apprenticeship program, a form of job training. So that's 6A, 6B, and 6C. And this is number of CTE pathway completers enrolled in a post-secondary education institution. So of all the CTE completers, we have 27,000, just over 27,000 students enrolled in a post-secondary educational institution. Of the CTIG completers, we have 67,000 total, 26,000 are enrolled in a post-secondary, and then the non-CTIG completers are at 1,212 students. 6B, completers enrolled in a state apprenticeship program. So we have 29 from the overall group of 87,000. The CTIG completers, we have 26. And then non-CTIG completers, we have 3 enrolled in a state apprenticeship program. And I think this is going to be one of our bigger areas of growth, especially with the governor's master plan for career education and really looking at youth apprenticeship programs and growing those out as we move forward with this planning. There is funding out there to support this. It's getting the employers in line to bring these youth apprentices on board and understanding that the risk isn't as big as they think it is with having 16 and 17-year-olds on job sites to become youth apprentices and then offering them those positions as they work through the programs. So we've seen it happen here, we've seen it happen in other states, and we just need to be able to provide that support to employers and understanding so that we can move these programs forward. The governor's goal was 500,000 apprentices by 2029, registered apprentices. I'm sure we're over 100,000 now, but without high school students, I'm not sure we can get to the 500,000. All right, and then 6C, job training other than state apprenticeship programs. And we have overall completers, 223 of them are in job training programs. Of the CTIG completers, we have 215. And of the non-CTIG completers, we have 8. So that was it on that piece. We also looked at the 21-22 cohort on attendance as we brought that forward last year. And this is just a supplement to our data that we've looked at. Again, our CTE completers are at well over 90% overall for attendance, whereas a lot of the non-CTE participants are in the 80s and 70% range of attendance. So they're still coming to school to take their CTE courses. Okay. Really quick, we need 2 more of our folks. Actually, Member McQuillan just came on. We need 1 more member to be on camera. We have to have 4 for a quorum. All right, thank you. We need 1 more Chancellor's Office, Board of Governors side to be on camera. Okay.
We got it.
Thank you.
Later.
Okay. Sorry about that. Okay. So this is total number of students for all 4 years of the cohort. This is broken down by race. And then, let me go to this next one. Oh, got it. So these are our CTIG LEAs. This was total LEAs, our cohort of 497,000 students. And then when we move into our CTIG LEAs, it's very similar. We're still in the 90% overall with CTIG.
And so
go ahead.
Clearly you're seeing a dramatic increase in attendance rate for all disaggregated sets of data for the whole population, which is incredible.
Yeah, and this aligns to what you're seeing in the grad rate too, in terms of just like there's a clear, distinction between, CTE completers, and you're seeing that trend. The more involved you are in CTE, whether it be the two courses or more and stuff, all the way up to completion, the attendance rates are higher, the grad rates are higher. As a ex-math teacher in the high school, I always wanted to quantify student engagement. And it, and this just feels like these data points are identifying that CTE students have that kind of intangible maybe of student engagement, from just an anecdotal space.
All right. And we're at member comment on our data pieces.
All right. Any member comments? I see Dr. Escobedo.
Thank you so much for the data. This is just really a great exhibition of your hard work and the hard work of all the teachers out there. And like the previous caller said, just, this type of exposure, learning exposure, just enhances engagement. And I remember last time there was one specific region that had the highest number of CT completers, and I hope that those best practices from that region can be shared with other regions, because we really need to, as best as possible, improve the percentage of completers.
Thank you for that. There is one. Actually, I'll get to Member McQuillan first. Go ahead. Yeah.
Yes, thank you for all the good information. I appreciate that. Wondering about any paid internship updates. I thought I heard in the SBE meeting that there's something got approved for paid internships. Thank you.
So I can address that. It was the only convening of the 10 that I didn't attend was the day that Superintendent Thurman asked that my team help with putting together this paid internship summit. And we did that on October 10th, I believe. And 2 years ago, I helped write some legislation. It was Assembly Bill 2088, sponsored by Cooper. And the goal was to do a pilot program for paid student internships. And we'd asked for a 3-year pilot so we could collect data on it. And how it was set up was that if this bill was funded, half the funding would come from the funds received through the legislation, and then the employers would cover the other half of the funding. And it was going to be at minimum wage or just above minimum wage, and students would have the opportunity to work 2 months full-time between their junior year and their senior year that summer, and we would have about between 30 and 40,000 students involved in the pilot across the state each summer for 3 years. And so it made it all the way through both houses, and right at the end, it was not signed. So the superintendent asked for us to put together a summit, and we did that for October 10th. We pulled together, we had about 80 folks that came in person to the summit. They had a press conference, and then we had the actual work that we did with the folks that attended. Like I said, we had 80 in person. We had about 340 participants virtually. And we went through a series of questions with the groups on how we could structure and build out a paid student internship program. So that is in the works. I think what happened at the SBE meeting, the superintendent introduced it as one of our new programs. We're actually working on putting together some pilots for this, I believe, for this coming summer. And we are going to look at some more legislation for this going forward to be able to fund this. But yeah, it's one of his projects that he's had in mind for a while, and we're working on this right now to help support it.
Member Rodriguez.
Yes, good morning, and thank you so much for sharing these metrics and this wonderful data. I just want to share the impact that I see anecdata, right? Because it's like my personal experience at my high school, the impact that CTE programs being completers has on our students. We see it in the attendance, but I see it every day in the pride that my students have when they wear their uniforms for the programs that they're participating in. And very specifically last week, we had our CTE students take our middle school students who came in to visit all of the CTE programs that we have to offer. And that was so exciting to watch them doing what their, high school mentors are doing, and having the young kids get excited about participating. So I just wanted to share that, and thank you so much for all of these opportunities that are available to our California students.
That is a wonderful story, and hopefully we have that replicated all across the state. That is beautiful. I wanted to borrow a couple questions from people that submitted them. The first one, I think, maybe getting answered already in chat, or maybe it's going to be asked next, but jumping ahead, how is data, there's a question here in chat, how is data for indicator 4A on certifications collected?
Thomas?
Which one's 4A? Sorry, I don't know off the top of my head.
For certifications, how do we collect data for indicator 4A for student certifications?
I'll have to double check. TK is on the call too. It's either coming into the work-based learning file, which is pretty new, or it's in the survey.
Got it. That's helpful. Yeah, that would be a good one. As we have follow-up, they're able to kind of identify the source of the data would be great.
Yeah, no, essentially, and that's fair. And I think the challenge, once again, anything coming into CalPads that's reflective of that K-12 space, and I know the survey data is coming through CalPads, but it should be heavily caveated because it's a very different, data model.
Yeah, very good. That's helpful. And another question that kind of gets to both agenda items 2 and 3 is, I mentioned this at the beginning of the meeting, the governor's executive order and the master plan for CTE. It's something I'm, of course, very excited about. It's taking the discussions we've had to a completely new level, and really, hopefully, building out a really thorough, coherent plan for us. And was wondering, having taken a look at the data and knowing what our state plan calls for, kind of what should we be looking forward to? Where are some opportunities for us, and maybe where are some challenges for us? And I wonder if, Pete, you might be able to answer that, or your team.
Sure. So I think as we look at this going forward, opportunities are really growing out work-based learning and getting those students that hands-on type of experience that they need. And that can help them in making decisions for career either way, right? It's something to sit in the classroom and read your book and do your homework compared to being out there and doing. And I think that once we can grow out our work-based learning programs and really develop those relationships with businesses that will help support that, and bringing them in to see what we're actually doing in the classroom going forward. And also that's our challenge, and is getting that trust building and relationship building completed. And I think if we work through this regional piece that we introduced in item 2 and assisting them with building that out and using some models that have worked elsewhere, I think that will make a difference really going forward for our students overall. And then really the Golden State Pathways model of integrating the core curriculum into the CTE work and showing how it fits in with their math class or science class, and even doing research in history and English, and building that into that. So the students, it's that hook for those students, bringing them together with all their coursework, I think will make a difference.
Thank you for that. And I think one of the things I've been seeing, particularly from this administration, has been a very intentional focus on aligning our disparate programs that we've got. And it's nice to see the CTE plans getting rolled into that, and the opportunities now for these students to both get some hands-on experience, while they're in their CTE program, then be able to do some work-based learning there, get into dual enrollment, continue the work-based learning, continue on getting their industry certifications, being very closely aligned with what our labor market needs are in our communities, is really holds so much promise for really creating generational change socioeconomically, and really if we can focus on how do we build out the local economies, particularly in areas that have been economically disadvantaged, thinking areas in Empire, Central Valley, particularly Eastern Sierra areas, that there's a huge potential there for the future. So I'm really excited for it.
It was interesting. I was at a event for my daughter's volleyball team yesterday, and there's a parent there talking to some of the other parents saying, it's really making a difference in high schools now are these career types of classes. And I just sat and listened. I didn't say what I do for a living or anything. I was just a fly on the wall listening and just wanted to see what they were going to. And she was raving about the direction our CTE courses have gone in to make a difference for students. And the only comment I made was, so now if they're going to go post-secondary, if they're going to go to college, we need to assist them with aligning to what they want to get a degree in or career in, and not just pick the college that's most popular, but pick that college that's going to make a difference for them in their career goals. And she said, yeah, that's great. And then I just left it at that. I'm sure at some point, because we're on this team together and it's just starting, so at some point they'll find out what I do.
But it is a great undercover boss moment. I
yeah,
love it.
Exactly. Because my wife's like, my wife was elbowing me. I said, no, I'm not going to say anything right now.
Yeah.
So,
and I did want to comment on the previous question, since it came from the audience, is on item 4A. Thomas Dorkman and Thomas Coe were able to confirm that the data on certifications is survey-based data, so it's from the students back to us. So with that, Joseph Williams.
You're still on member comments, right?
Yes.
Okay. So this, like, to hear you talk about work-based learning it excites me. This is a passion topic for me. And if you ever decide to do a task force on work-based learning or road shows, I want to volunteer myself if it's appropriate. And just a couple questions about the work-based learning CCI measures. Like, does making changes to that fall under your shop? Because like on the CDE's page, there's been new measures that have been for potential inclusion, and hasn't really ever been closed out yet on when those things would become solidified. And then, like, is there space to comment on the CCI work-based learning measures and make recommendations for broadening some of the elements so that more students can get captured? So, like, there's a section in there where it talks about 100 hours of, on the job experience, but it really only focuses on, I think it's special education students. Oh. And then my last comment is the counties seem to have really figured out, in a scalable way through their WIOA programs, how to get young people on the jobs. Now, they don't have a whole lot of in-school youth on jobs, but they do have tons of out of school youth in paid work experience positions, and where districts are struggling with is how to handle the liability with employers. And if we can figure out how to get guidance or at least best practices on how they can work with the nonprofit community, whether it be subcontracts or ways, just would like to be able to have more conversations about how we get in-school youth in paid work-based learning experiences while they're in their CTE classes.
Yeah, agreed. That's our biggest barrier right now, and South Carolina has figured that out. They actually use a temp agency as an employer of record, and they have large insurance policies that can cover things like this so that it's not on the employer's liability, it's on their liability, and the employer isn't having to take out more insurance for workman's comp or any kind of liability issues, and it's on the temp agency. So it's scaled that way in South Carolina, and I think a number of other states are doing that at this point. But agreed.
Also, Member Williams.
When we go out to look at programs, I will invite you to tour with us.
Also, Member Williams, this is Tom Bjorkman. Duly noted, I've got some ideas on some ways we could look at WBL in the context of pathways. So, for maybe future CWPJACs as well, and possibly looking at regional stuff, that it seems like that could be of interest to this group for both the dual enrollment and then also work-based learning in the context of pathways. So hopefully we'll have some fun data in that space in the future.
That is wonderful. And Pete, when you get that roadshow going on, invite me as well. I am also a work-based learning employer. And so I love this work as well. So it'd be great to, as you do your roadshows again, then invite us along and we'll be happy to join you.
Perfect. That would be great.
Are there any other comments from members of the committee? All right, I do not see any. So that will open us up for public comment. And so any members of the public, welcome to share on item number 3.
There appears to be no public comment on this item.
All right. Yeah, I don't see any hands raised online either. All right. So that concludes the public comment for item number 3. Gets us to our last item on the agenda, which is item 4, a general public comment. And so I want to thank everyone who's joined us today. And I wanted to know from the members of the public attending, are there any items not on this agenda that are under our purview that you would like to comment on? We have 2 minutes each.
I'm going to read a comment from the Q&A from Jim Southwick. He says, state plan equals consistent ongoing funding, including COLA. Number 2, equity of access for at-promise students, especially county-operated programs and all alternative education sites. And number 3, teacher certification streamlined to create more access to teachers.
Those are all important points.
Agreed. There are no hands raised. There is nothing in the email and nothing on the phone line for public comment.
All right, then that will conclude our public comment under item number 4. Committee members, any other final thoughts or comments? All right, I just want to say thank you to the team. It's been a little while. I've had some conversations with Pete and other members of the team, and Rachel particularly as well. And I know how much work that they put in over that short period of time, and hopefully we can space out the following workshops and information sessions and that over the next couple of months, a little less hectic. But I'm really looking forward to the virtual convening and getting that feedback. I would love to join that as well. but very good work going into this, and I'm looking forward to seeing what the regions do with the data and the information they've got. I think it'll be wonderful. If there are no other comments from members of the committee, we have some dates coming up. We do want to have a meeting in January. To a comment I believe was made earlier, currently through the end of the calendar year, we have some flexibility on how we conduct our meetings, but in January that might change. And so, we'll probably change how we can do it. Now, even if we have flexibility, it will change. And so I would expect that the January meeting would be in person. Ideally, it would be based around the date for the State Board of Education meeting. I know that some members of the State Board have a particular challenge in travel. So we want to kind of optimize their time and their travel. So look for dates somewhere in January for that. And then, we should have one again, like we typically do in March and May. And so those, to accommodate any in-person travel, we would start those meetings a little bit later, but look forward to that information coming out as we know more about our ability to be flexible and not. All right. So with that, our meeting is concluded. And it is now 10:37, and we are adjourned. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.